Hey, welcome to SAB Chronicles, aka the COVID Chronicles. We're going to dive deep into the teachings of a few of our CEO Action Pod groups spanning from 2020 all the way to 2024. This series takes us through the fire of COVID to post COVID, and now who really gives a care about COVID? If you listen to this series, you're going to gain inside knowledge of strategies of the past and strategies of the future. Hold on to your seats as you're about to get a PhD in business. Buckle up and let's get rolling. Hey, are you looking to scale your business from five figures to six figures or six figures to seven figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy. And I want to introduce somebody very special and near and dear. She is Myrna King. She runs A Life Aligned Coaching, and she has been in the industry for many years. She is a Jedi in the coaching industry. You would be the yin to my yang, I guess.
There we go.
Probably. Coaching versus strategy, and lots and lots of years of experience. And she's going to share a really cool topic. As soon as she said it, I was like, yes, that's it. Love that.
Yep.
And so without further ado, if you want to talk a little bit more about your company and whatnot, and then go ahead and go into the actual training, Myrna.
Sure. Well, hey, thanks for the opportunity, Jason. I appreciate it. And it's been really fun getting to know you, the people on Team Awesome, and then to be introduced to more of Team Wolfpack. That's pretty exciting. So, Myrna King, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm in Austin, Texas, 10 years as a coach, 20 years as a consultant, many more years alive on the planet. We won't count those up right now. But yeah, the conversation as we talked with Jason about what could I talk about, he landed right away on motivation is bullshit. And I'm borrowing that from a famous coach whose name is Mel Robbins. And so before I launch into that, I shared a slide that Jason will post maybe in your Slack channel later that just has links that you could listen to Mel Robbins in a 6-minute talk somewhere, and some of the other things that I reference, you can go find out more about. So those resources are just kind of posted in links on a slide that Jason can share down the road. But there's 2 things, not 1, but 2 things you're going to get today. No steak knives, but you do get 2 coaching tools today. The first one is motivation is bullshit. And the second one is how to use human cheat codes. So we'll launch right into the first one. Mel Robbins is a coach, and she's become famous because she wrote a book called The 5-Second Rule. And I call it the NASA countdown. And that's how she called it the first time she introduced it at the end of a TED Talk. And it was a tool that she used to help her get out of a difficult situation. She and her husband, their life turned into a smoking ruin. And I'll talk a little bit about what the collapse looked like. And the 5-second rule was kind of how they climbed out of the hole. That was the genesis, the mother of necessity that had her kind of invent and figure out the 5-second rule, or how to use the NASA countdown. So as a backstory, she's living with her husband in Boston. They have a couple of kids. She has a big coaching practice. She has some famous people that she coaches. And one thing leading to another, one of the famous people connected her to somebody in Hollywood who hired her in a production company to be a coach on a reality show that looked at how you turn difficult employees around at work. And so she was very jazzed about she was going to have national exposure. This was at the time that Trump was doing The Apprentice. So that was the number one reality show, I guess, apart from the Kardashians on television. And so they thought that this content of doing a beauty salon one week and a butcher shop another week and a little software startup another week, and how to have other employees saying, this is the problem we're having this person, and she would come in and sit down and say, this is how we're going to turn things around. And so kind of the redemption story, which is sort of what coaching does. It sort of takes a difficult situation and turns it around. So she was very excited. It came with a giant signing bonus. And then maybe 4 months later, she had to go actually shoot the episodes. They had to line up the different locations, companies that were going to participate, get, releases from all those people. So that homework took some while. In the meantime, since money fell from the sky, her husband decided he was going to quit his 9 to 5, and he was going to pursue his dream with a buddy of opening the world's best pizza shop. So he'd perfected the crust over years. He perfected the sauce over years. He was convinced he and his friend made the best pizza, and the world deserved to eat their pizza. So they opened a pizza shop before she went to go shoot the very first episode of this program. Well, on the first day of shooting, the little production assistant came over and said, we've made some changes to the format of the show. None of this came to her in advance. Instead of turning around this employee, you're actually going to fire them. We are going to have every person come in turn and complain about what's wrong with this employee. And then you're going to come in and not turn it around. You're going to fire them because Donald Trump has ratings through the roof firing people. We're going to have you fire people. And she said, hey, that's not what I do. That's not really in alignment with coaching. I feel ethically challenged to say yes to this. And they said, if you want the money to keep coming, you'll say yes. So she said, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Came onto the set and said, no, I can't do this. I can't destroy people on camera so you have better ratings and pretend I'm a coach. Like, I ethically can't do that. And they said, pack your stuff and go back to Boston. And by the way, you're contracted for a year. So you can't work as a coach, work in consulting, whatever it is you do to make a living, you can't do it while you're under contract to us. And since you're non-performing in that contract, you'll get no more money from us either. So basically, she was really screwed by this. In the meantime, her husband's pizza shop was going well. So she comes home with her tail between her legs, having learned a life lesson. And he decided with his partner, well, since we have no more money coming from you, and you can't even work in your field for several months, we're going to open more pizza shops in order to make more money. Long story short, they opened 5 pizza shops in about 90 days. All of them collapsed. They grew too fast. Some of the locations didn't work. All of the reasoning was panic and, scarcity driven instead of thinking through what should happen. So the two of them wake up now every morning. 7 months have gone by and they can't get out of bed. They have no money. They roll the dice when they swipe the card at the grocery store, whether there's money in the account to buy the milk. The kids are pulled out of soccer. They can't show their face in town. Everything has come full stop, and neither one of them can see a way to get out. She's waiting for this contract penalty to be lifted for her to even work again. And they're, in debt and having to unwind the pizza business. So she wakes up one morning and realizes she has to make some calls for people she owes money to. They take turns who gets dressed and takes the kids to work before they come back and go to bed. I mean, it's really bad news. And she can't get out of bed. She's been hitting the snooze button, and she just sort of engaged in prayer and kind of asked for divine intervention. How am I going to get out of bed? How do I find a way forward? I can't see a way forward. My husband can't see a way forward. We don't know how to get out of this disaster. And she thought, I'm going to pretend I hear the NASA countdown guys in my head. Like it's Apollo 13 and the rocket's on the launch pad. I'm too tired to count all the way from 10. I'll count from 5. So I'm going to hear the NASA countdown people say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as soon as she heard the 1, she pretended she was launched out of bed and got up and got dressed and brushed her teeth and took the kids to school and made her calls. And she thought, I wonder if that would work tomorrow when I don't want to get out of bed. And sure enough, it did. It worked the next day and the day after that. After a couple of weeks, her husband said, "What is it you're doing that's getting you out of bed? Because I still can't get out of bed and face the day anymore." And she said, "I started doing this NASA countdown thing. I like count down from 5 to 1, and then I launch into the thing. I make the call I don't want to make. I go to the grocery store and wonder if we have enough money for food. I go and pick up the kids at school and don't look at all my neighbors and my friends because I'm embarrassed to show my face. But I'm doing it. I'm getting out of bed and I'm getting going." So she's calling now. She's humbled herself. She's getting out of bed. She starts making a round of calls with her friends, her past clients. "You can't hire me as your coach, but who do you know who could let me do something kind of high profile for no money? Like I'm available for no money. I've got to find my way back. I'm looking for some ideas here." As she's making the rounds, talking to friends and past clients, somebody says, I know somebody who's booking the current TED stage and they've had a cancellation. It's kind of last minute, but you don't get paid to give a TED talk, but it's a ton of exposure if you want to do a TED talk. And she said, "What's a TED talk?" After she figured out what it was, she said, "Sure, I'll do it if it doesn't violate this contract thing." So that's how she found herself backstage with a Pulitzer Prize winning author and a neurobiologist, all these super famous people who are doing these super big breakthroughs in, different areas of the world. And here's this coach who blew up a reality show and is living in a smoldering ruin. And she's going to talk about how she climbed out of the pits of depression using the NASA countdown. But she thought, well, whatever, God has put me here, I'm just going to keep going. So she does her 15-minute TED Talk and she shares the sort of tragedy story of, hey, we thought we had it made. Hey, we thought we did everything right. Looking back, we can see some choices we made and why it collapsed. Should have had a lawyer look at that contract before I signed it, but, spilt milk. But this is how I got out of it. At the very end of her talk, she says, if you find yourself in similar circumstances, let the NASA countdown guys launch you out of bed in the morning. Don't hit the snooze button and go to town. The key of her talk was that if you use motivation to get yourself out of bed, you listen to Tony Robbins talks, you pretend you're Rocky and you're running up the stairs, dun 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 dun, dun, and you're at City Hall in Philadelphia, yay! And then you run down the stairs and you go home and take a shower. That's like a sugar high. It evaporates. You can read Zig Ziglar, you can be inspired, you can be motivated, but it only lasts this long. The next day you have to do it all over again. And the next day you have to do it, it's like eating sugar. It's a temporary high. It doesn't sustain keeping you motivated. And so the NASA countdown was an easy tool to use. And when it was time to launch and go do the things she was avoiding doing, it worked every time. And so she thought, okay, I'm going to share with people how motivation is bullshit and how you can do this trick instead. Use the 5-second rule and put that tool in your toolbox and pull it out every time you have something you need to do and you don't want to. 300,000 people from around the world reached out to her in letters and in emails in various ways, posts on the YouTube video, because they used the 5-second rule and it worked for them too. 300,000 people around the world after her TED Talk. And so book publishers are knocking on her door. Wow, you've got some million numbers of views on your TED Talk. 300,000 people want to know more. There's a book in here that ready made to have profit for us. Now they're fighting over who's going to win the rights for her to write the book. And she had her second ethical challenge. Well, I know that it works. I just don't have any idea why it works. You know, I know motivation in the traditional way is a sugar high because that was my experience. I could get motivated for a little bit and it would go away, and we're still in bed, 30 days into our disaster. And so, it took her 3 years of research with neurobiologists, corporate organizational psychologists, various people who understood how the human behavior works and how the human brain works, to understand why does it work that I could do a NASA countdown and it takes me from dead center to this thing I've been avoiding, that I'm afraid of, that I don't want to do. And it turns out this is the answer. When you start counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're not upset about what happens when you get to 1. There's no fear, there's no concern. It's just counting. Like, there's no emotional baggage attached to doing a countdown. But what happens in the body is now you're in action. You're not at a standing start. In your countdown, you took an action. The second action you take is the thing you've been avoiding, but you already are moving. You're already in the zone. You've already gotten started. So you're walking over to the phone by the time you get to 1. You have gone out the door with the keys to get back into the gym by the time you've got to the 1. And so the action of doing the countdown puts you in action, but in a way that you're not confronting the thing you don't want to confront or avoiding the thing you don't want to do. 3 years later, she learned why it worked. She has a best-selling book called The 5-Second Rule. So let me chat with you about how you guys could make this work with your team, yourself, or your staff. How would you apply the 5-second rule to what you guys do? And this is how you do it. If you need to call a vendor and say, I need that price to come down, or I'm going to go to company XYZ, or you need to have a hard conversation with an employee, or some other thing you're avoiding, telling the mother-in-law, Thanksgiving doesn't work this year, and so let's reschedule. Whatever the thing is that you're trying to avoid, if you catch yourself avoiding it day after day, honey, did you do the, no, I haven't done the thing yet. Aren't you going to call? Yeah, I haven't made that call yet. If you find yourself in avoidance, or you have real reluctance to getting a task done or doing something, try it. Hear the NASA countdown in your head: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as soon as you hit the end of that launch sequence, pick up the phone and make the call. Call the person into your office, whatever it is you need to do. You'll find yourself in action in spite of the avoidance you're feeling, or what it is you are reluctant to do. And then with your team, if you are following up with someone who's not getting something done, and it's the third time you've asked, and you can see resistance or reluctance, or they haven't been willing to tell you, they don't completely understand, or they don't know how, or whatever it is, you can share the countdown. You can do the countdown with them. Okay, we're going to go out to the factory floor and we're going to find out what's in those boxes. First, we're going to do a 5-second countdown. And then you and I are going to get up and go get to the bottom of it. And then in the future, when I ask you to do something you don't want to do it, I expect you to do a 5-second countdown and then get off your ass and go and do it. So the tool is something that's shareable with people. But that's the 5-second rule. So that's how you understand that motivation is bullshit. But there is a tool that you can use, compliments of NASA, in order to get you past any reluctance to get something done. Again, on the slide that's shared, there's a 6-minute interview where you can see the telegenic, very competent Mel Robbins, who belonged with a TV show, talk through her disaster and then her invention of the 5-second rule. Her biggest regret is that she called it the 5-second rule because it reminds people of the 3-second rule. Jason, do you know what the 3-second rule is?
Of course I do.
How fast you can pick up food if you've dropped it on the floor. So she thought maybe marketing wise, it wasn't the best thing to do to call it the 5-second rule, but it does take 5 seconds. And so in spite of that marketing faux pas, a best-selling.
And in our house, we have a 10-second rule.
Oh, wow, you get extra time. Well, to close out the story of their family, she's earning 7 figures now as a speaker. I don't know that she does any coaching. There's been a follow-up book. She's given lots of more talks. And now her husband leads men on yoga retreats like 3 times a year. So that was his new dream of things to do. And so they're living happily ever after in spite of the disaster. Any questions about motivation, why it might be bullshit, or how you might use the 5-second rule? Do you know, with your team or your people?
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I believe that there are times motivation doesn't work, and you need to have something in your back pocket to do that. Of course, I've had a lot of conversations with Jason, so
Okay.
he's done the 5-second rule without even knowing he's doing the 5-second.
His comes with a golden crowbar, I think. So
Yeah,
she was not wielding any weapons. Yeah, she was just counting.
No, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. That's actually pretty good. I like that.
Okay, good. Well, let me share the second round of things to go, and then we may have some questions, or we may not after that. I guess the last thing I want to say is I've shared a link for something called 15.5. And so if you need to motivate people on an ongoing basis, not just about one tasks, but about their tasks overall, you might look at a software platform called 15.5. And I also included a link for a 20-minute phone call with me if you have questions about that or if it makes sense for you. And so you can reach out to me later. But yeah, 15.5 is a way to keep your people motivated. 15 minutes a week. And it takes about, 5 minutes to learn how to do the 15-minute process weekly. So that would be a next step if you wanted one. Okay, so let's talk about human cheat codes. Raise your hand if you've ever played a video game. I just want to make sure I haven't put you to sleep. Okay, so I'm a pinball wizard. I didn't really do video games, but my son killed a lot of people playing Halo. And so killed them in teams playing Halo, got very good at Halo. And so I vicariously learned about cheat codes through my son. And what a cheat code then, just so that I say it out loud, is if you're going to get a weapons array for something like Halo, if you have cheat codes, you get the weapons sooner. And so you get the bazooka in level 2 instead of having to earn your way up to level 5. And so that means you get through level 2, 3, and 4, for example, a whole lot faster with a grenade launcher and a bazooka and whatever other weapons you can unlock with cheat codes. So it makes it easier and faster to be successful in the game. And so it's more fun too. Well, humans come with cheat codes. As a coach, I can tell you that for sure. And you've probably noticed that as you've managed people in your businesses or interacted with clients. And how you find out what the cheat codes are is through assessments. And so there's a cheap, fast assessment tool that I will tell you about. And the link to this on Amazon is in the slide. And it's called StrengthsFinder. And it comes from the Gallup company, which for 25 years has been working with small to mid-sized businesses in 200 countries. And so a few million people have taken this assessment. So they have a giant database about what works and what makes sense and what doesn't work. The book costs $16. So it's not free, but it's definitely cheap. And you get a code with it. And you go to the Gallup website and you punch in your code, and it lets you take about a 10-minute assessment. And I recommend that people do it for their managers or their managers and their team. Of course, as the owner of the company, you would take it too, so you know what the hell is going on. And it gives you the 5 top strengths. So StrengthsFinder finds your 5 top strengths about what you do and how you do it. And then it shares with the individual person, and they forward the report to you, how being a visionary, they can relate that to the work that they do, how being a communicator can help them on the job, how communicators can better talk to visionaries. And so it unlocks the weapons array, if you will, of your actual team. So you normally in the course of events, whenever you hear people talk about their careers, you read a biography, there's always some sort of passage that goes like this. Over the years, I discovered that particle physics was easy for me, but it was hard for other people. And so I decided to be a particle physicist once I graduated MIT. And so over some period of time, people discover what they're good at. They discover what they're not good at. And you pay for that education if you don't know from the beginning or in early phases of employing someone what they're good at, what they're not good at. Sometimes they'll tell you they're good at things because they think that's what you want to hear. Sometimes they'll tell you they're good at things because they think they're good at things and they don't know what they're talking about. Other times they'll tell you they're good at things and they are in fact good at those things. So one way to know for sure though is to do an assessment. Compare them to the few million people who've also done the assessment in 200 countries and 35 languages or something. And so now you can legitimately say, this person is good at organization. This person is good at planning, whatever their top 5 are. And now that you have a sense about, I don't have to wait to see if I've given them an organizational task, if they're any good at organizing. I already know they're good at organizing. So if I need something organized, I'm going to ask Frank to do it because I understand now that I have his cheat codes, organizing is one of his top 5. So it's fair enough if we have to do something in that category of work that I choose among the people who have those as strengths. The other way that it makes sense to practice human cheat codes with people is for them to know what their colleagues are good at, what their other teammates are good at. And so sometimes, especially in small businesses, because they're closely held and there's not a lot of people, people are doing things because they're the only one standing around, because there's nobody else around to do it. Someday we hope to hire an accountant. In the meantime, you'll be keeping the books. Someday we hope to hire a web designer. In the meantime, this weekend, go work with this platform and put something up and we'll see how we do. So sometimes you're a chief cook and bottle washer and you're working outside of your strengths or outside of your talent array, if you will, because there's no other options. But when it comes time to add someone to the team and you know some of the tasks that you want to give them are in a specific talent array, doing an assessment with them so that you know those talents are actually on board can help save you time and money. The other thing is you already make payroll. You make payroll every week, twice a month, once a month. So you have invested in weapons that are locked up in a cabinet and you don't even know what's inside the cabinet. You have invested in a weapons array you don't have access to because you don't even know that Sally has a grenade launcher nobody's quite uncovered yet. And the time comes that you need a grenade launcher, Sally is your person. But unless you check her cheat codes and you figure out what she is good and is not good at, now you're just by the seat of your pants figuring out who should be doing what. And if you're scaling fast, you may have to rely on people to do things outside of their job description because it's a month or 2 months before you can hire someone to take that over. But you happen to be good at that, and we confirmed it in your assessment. So you're going to lead the effort for the next 60 days on that, in addition to everything else you're doing. And then you can help us with the hiring process of whoever's going to come in and take that over. So that's how you would use kind of human cheat codes in order to use your talent array. The last piece would be if you were taking something new on, you're going to open another location, you're going to start doing orders online, you're adding another service line that's adjacent to what you already do, but you haven't actually done it before, some big project that's part of your scaling. You can not just look at the people that you have, but on an overlay, you can look at what the talent array says they have. And so it could be that the person doing the books actually is a visionary, and they should just be in the meeting giving feedback. They may not even do it in their job, but they probably have some good ideas for you in the development stage and the design stage. So fully deploying your talent array is getting your money's worth for that payroll that you meet every month. The last thing I wanted to mention was, let's see. Oh, I meant to mention 15.5 here, and I mentioned it earlier. So I'll go back to what I meant to say. The other link is to a talk by Simon Sinek. And he's a person that helps with motivation, but it's really sort of why you're still in business. So if you find that it's not task motivation or managing a difficult situation motivation you need, but it's something closer to burnout or exhaustion, or you wake up and wonder, why am I still doing this? Why am I still working so hard? Simon Sinek has an 18-minute TED Talk called Start with Why, and kind of helps you break down internally why you do what you do, so you can remind yourself, oh yeah, that's right. This is why I do this. This is why I started this business. This is why the blood, sweat, and tears are flowing right now. So it's more than money. It's usually more than money. So, okay, any questions about the talent array and human cheat codes using assessments? Has anybody ever used an assessment in hiring or in managing people?
Absolutely. I want to address something, Myrna, though. That kind of ties into this conversation. So, there's a few of us on here that are retired military, and one thing that you used to hear it a lot, and that is, false motivation is better than no motivation at all.
Sure.
And that's complete horseshit.
If you're having to talk yourself into it every day, we have a problem.
Yeah, it does not matter. And when you have to really take this and not just look at it from the dynamic of the CEO seat, but the dynamic of your employees. Okay, because you can be the most successful CEO in the world, but if your staff is constantly having to be fueled by false motivation constantly every single day, it is a recipe for disaster. 100%.
Well, the other thing too is it could be that, especially in small businesses, they kind of grow organically. You have somebody and they're working half-time and they can come to work with you full-time, and you need more help anyway, so you find things for them to do. And it turns out maybe those aren't things that person specifically should be doing. But you could have somebody else on the team who absolutely should be doing that thing. And so it gives you a chance to just kind of refilter who's doing what, and can we have their talent for it be one of the main reasons they're engaged in that activity? Because that's where your bang for your buck is. That's where your leverage is. So-and-so is an excellent communicator, and I have her managing our communications. Okay, this is making sense. You're getting your bang for your buck.
Yeah, I call it, just make sure you identify everybody that works for you. Doesn't matter if they're a W-2 employee, they're a contractor, whatever. What is your actual superpower? What is that one thing that every day you get up and go, that just fucking excites me?
Right. Well, and for $17, $16.45 or something, you can get an answer that's irrefutable in case they're bullshitting you or bullshitting themselves, and we all do it. The other thing is, some things can be trained up. And I'm sure you've noticed this in the military, that if something is pretty rote in terms of a task, most people could manage that. You could train up for someone to do something that maybe isn't in their talent stack or in their talent array, and they do an okay job, and it's what we need right now, and that's fine. It's 2 hours a week. But there are some things that can't be trained up for. If you are not good at numbers, you should not be doing the books. End of story. End of story. If you're a very poor communicator, you should not be doing the email responses. You should not be doing the client engagement. So some things can be trained up, even if it's outside a talent array, and then you can backfill when it's time to hire, transferring those tasks over to the person who actually is capable and good at that. And then some things can't be trained up. And so, of course, managing your businesses, you know what those things are. The last thing too about employees is sometimes they think, well, that's a really sweet assignment that you gave Paul, and you gave it to him because you like Paul better than me. Mom always liked you better than me. Yeah, that's why you gave that plum assignment to Paul. And if you've done the cheat codes, you can say, actually, I need 3 things, and Paul has all 3 of them. You have 1 of them. That's why I gave it to Paul, not because I like him better, because it's really right in the heart of his talent array. Oh, okay. So it's a little easier in terms of task assignments to say, I actually verified from a third party. He's good at the things that this requires. So we'll be having Paul do that. So.
Yeah, and I look at this as this is a way to strengthen your company, right? So,
and you're already spending the money on payroll. Blow the $17 on the book.
And there's lots of tools out there, right? I mean, one of my favorite books that I really, really like, and I think it's a great book, is called Rocket Fuel. And it's that real visionary versus operational, viewpoint. But it's more of a C-suite, that really talks more to the C-suite, not to the staff. And that's really why I like this this concept of doing this.
Well, and there are some business owners who are not visionaries. Sure. They don't see what's around the corner. They don't think, well, what is the second and third order of effects of doing this thing? But they have people on their team who you could say, I need, you to walk me through what you think will happen in 18 months. If we do X, go do your research, do some homework and come back to me. And other people are like, oh, well, I think it might be this, this, and this. So again, even for your own talent stack, you may discover there are some components that there are things I need. I pay people who have some of these things. I'm just going to include them in some of these conversations.
Yep, and one of my favorite sayings is, I can be an idiot at about 90% of the things that happen in my company, and I've surrounded myself with smart people to do the rest. So it's absolutely true. But you have to, even at your level, find out what your superpower is. And maybe your superpower isn't even being the CEO of the company. That doesn't mean you're not the CEO of the company. But
you need a strong COO, or you need a strong chief marketing officer, or you need somebody else, or you need an advisor like you who can bring strategy to the table. If strategy is not on your superpower list, is not in your talent array, you can find someone who could supply those strategy conversations and do that 12-month plan for growth.
Yeah. Just really great conversation for this group, and I mean literally for any business owner, regardless of how big they are, because we all know actually a lot of the smaller businesses, 10 million and below, are probably a hell of a lot smarter than the Fortune 500, 100,000 company CEOs.
I also, and the speed of change and the speed of getting things done, there's no comparison. I mean, some of the clients I work with are executives in companies with 5,000 people, and it takes about 2 days to say, good morning, how are you? I mean, it takes forever to do anything at all. Their expectations are so low about getting anything done. It's astounding. And in a small business, you're working 24, you want that done by the end of the week. And it would be the end of the month if it was a much larger company because of all the machinations and all the other people involved. So yeah, you make decisions fast and you do them cost effectively. And in larger companies, those speed is not a concern and cost efficiency sometimes is not a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at, I mean, everybody that, you know, I would say that every company that I work with, when it comes to the dynamic of, you know, the real owner controlled versus board controlled companies, is it's astounding because, you know, they brought some jack in off the street, right, to be the CEO, and they gave him one function: manage our P&L and make sure we stay on point.
And report to the board.
Right, and report to the board. Okay. Now you think of the responsibilities you have versus that jack, right? I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, the CFO should be managing the P&L. So yeah, it is remarkable. But you know, I think it used to be that you could ask this question in a business talk, you know, with not business owners, but with employees. What is the single biggest cost of running your company? Whatever your company is, what do you think the number one cost is? And almost nobody gets that it's payroll, that it's the human capital. That's the most expensive thing. And so finding a way to maximize the human capital that you're already paying for, you know, makes sense.
100%.
Well, it's been wonderful to have this chance to chat. If there aren't any other questions, I will mute myself and put up my picture and be a fly on the wall for your CAP meeting.
Does anybody have any questions for Myrna before we roll into part 2?
Hey, not a question, but kind of a comparison. Hi, Myrna. I'm Ed. I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, good.
Your earlier description of the motivation versus inspiration thing. So like Jason said, there's some of us here that are prior military, you know. Well, first, let me ask you, have you ever heard of somebody named J.C. Glick?
No.
No? All right. So he's in the same sort of business you're in.
Okay.
I want to look him up. He's a pretty
I'll look him up.
Yeah, I served with him at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Very interesting guy. But when I was stationed there, my job there was I worked in the Army Drill Sergeant Academy. We made the Army's drill sergeants, you know, and you know, I don't think anybody would disagree. We've got the strongest military in the world, in the history of the world, right? But you might be surprised to learn that when most people join the military, when they're going through basic training, at least half of them believe that they made the biggest mistake they ever made in their lives.
Sure.
Okay. So the challenge for the drill sergeant, Jason can attest to that. So the challenge for the drill sergeant is to keep those knuckleheads online so that they graduate and they become the best soldiers the world's ever seen.
To boost them, but not to break them. Yeah.
Well, sometimes they break, but they're young, so they heal quick. So when we're training these young sergeants to be drill sergeants, one thing that we stress very strongly, and J.C. Glick said this really well, just like you said, motivation will only get you so far. Motivation is temporary. Inspiration is far deeper, right? So one thing, and I used to use this a lot, inspired by the strength of your example rather than motivate by the power of your personality. You know, and that seemed to resonate with these young NCOs to help, because being a drill sergeant is a hard job, and not everybody is successful at it. You know, but that's one thing that we really used to inculcate into them to help them to be successful during their 2 or 3 years when they were turning young volunteers into soldiers. You know, so there's a connection there. And look up JC Glick. He's an interesting guy.
I sure will. Well, with the millennial workforce, with the people you're probably hiring, the biggest cohort for, entry levels into jobs is a millennial workforce. And they got participation trophies, and they were told they could be anything they wanted to be if they just wished upon a star. Tinkerbell would come by with her pixie dust, and it was all going to work out.
And at this point, we've got millennials training millennials.
Right. And so something like 15.5 or something like, identifying what they're good at instead of cataloging their failures and cataloging what they're not good at gives you a head start on what their orientation is to work. And you want them to love their job, to show up and work hard, and to want to be there. You can't make them want to be there. They got to want to be there on their own. And so anything you can do that encourages them to want to be there, like I get how good a communicator you are, and thank God I've carved out a piece of our business where you can really shine doing that. That's, just lifeblood to a millennial. So some of these tools and techniques are going to have to be used in the largest cohort we have of people entering the workforce, and that's those millennials.
Yeah, and I've always, this is one thing I've kind of lived by, is that, when you look at leadership, right? I don't even want to get into like all the definitions of leadership because there's a gazillion of them, right? But leadership is not a position, right? It's a responsibility, really is what it is. When it comes to a company, it's a responsibility to provide. In the military, we say purpose, direction, and motivation, right? So, and then to add to that is what I've added to that is influence. Okay, because purpose and direction and motivation only go so far. It's the influence that drives culture. Okay, culture driven. That is the era we are in today.
Yep.
Is the era of culture driving.
Yeah, because I said so doesn't really hold water with millennials. Right. Yeah, they're just like, okay, I'm gonna stop showing up for work, and then I'll go get another job. I mean, the largest no-show rate on the first day of a job is higher than it's ever been historically. They don't show up the first day of the job because they changed their mind. Right. And, they got another offer. And it starts next week. And that means they can go to Cancun with their friends and come back and start this other new job. I mean, just no work ethic sometimes. Now, we have some that have tremendous work ethics, but it's a very interesting group of people and a challenge for all of us to work with them.
Right. And nothing's ever a blanket, right? Because I have, my own wife is known as an elder, a
late stage millennial,
right? And she has none of those traits at all.
Right.
And some of that is just where you've grown up, so on and so forth. But yet I have people that do work for me that are 26, 27 years old. I have two daughters that are, one is 21 and the other is 26, both very high work ethic. So we also have to be mindful not to put everybody in a box, right?
Sure.
And don't put everybody in the same box. And, it always comes back to that just leading by a good example, right? Not be the do as I say, not as I do, not as I do, all those, fancy punch words and punchlines everybody uses, right? But they're all true, right? Because if we running our companies, right, don't eat our own dog food, then why? It's easy to say, well, I'm paying you. You do what the hell I tell you, right? But that's just not the world we live in, right? You can get away with that in the military, and hell, I'm not even sure if you can get away with that anymore either.
Mhm. It's
Probably,
a different world.
probably not as much, right?
Mhm.
Me and Ed and Ivan are like old dogs in that fight. So going back to 25 years ago, and when we came into that, that's a different world than it looks today.
Mhm.
I call it the world of snowflakes. Right?
Amen, brother.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all. If there's anything I can do for the Wolfpack, let me know. And
Yeah.
I will go on mute and be a fly on the wall for the rest of your meeting. Thanks so much. It was great to meet y'all.
Thanks for
Thanks, Myrna.
thanks
For
for
sure.
coming and giving us some words of wisdom, Myrna. For sure.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Myrna.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win. Thank you for tuning in to the SAB Chronicles, otherwise known as the COVID Chronicles. Hey, we hope you took a lot of great little golden nuggets from this episode. Follow us on social media. Follow us everywhere you can follow us for updates on all of our different series of podcasts, to include this one right here. We hope to see you back as soon as possible. And remember, you should always want to grow, scale, and win. We'll see you on the next episode.